Hi, welcome back to my channel. Christian here. Tonight, for dinner, I'm going to be making eggplant parmesan. But before we get started, let's take a sip of that red wine. In this recipe, you're going to need some flour, homemade tomato sauce. If you don't have homemade tomato sauce, you can use store-bought or make your own. Some eggplant, fresh parmesan, fresh mozzarella, fresh basil, some dried basil, garlic powder, some salt for seasoning, and then also some salt to draw out moisture out of the eggplant. Let's get started, shall we? Now, I want to make sure you guys know that this will take about an hour and a half from start to finish. You're going to spend about an hour preparing the eggplant, and then it's going to be 10 minutes of other prepping, and then 20 minutes of bake time. So, definitely need to take another sip of that red wine. First thing you want to do is slice the eggplant real thin. Usually about a 1/4 inch to 1/8 of an inch. You then want to lay it out on a rack. I've already went ahead and did that. You take some salt and you're going to season it. And what this does, it draws out the moisture. If you don't do this, it's going to be really mushy and you're not going to have the right texture for the eggplant part. Once you salt it, you then want to let it sit for about an hour. Be generous with it. After an hour, you then want to rinse off the eggplant, and then it'll be ready for breading and cooking. Folks, while the eggplant is sitting in salt, you want to set your oven and preheat it to 350. You also want to make sure you have a deep baking dish. So I'm using this one, and this should be able to handle the depth and the layers of the eggplant parm. In the meantime, while it sits there, you can go ahead and kill off half of your bottle of red wine. So that's what I'm definitely going to be doing. So now that the eggplant has the fluids or moisture drawn out of them from the salt, we're going to take another sip of that red wine. Afterward, you want to make sure that you rinse off the salt off the eggplant and then strain it so it's dry. The reason why that's important is that when you flour it and fry it, the flour doesn't turn to mush, and you also don't cause the oil to sputter or explode while you're frying it. Let's get going, shall we? So now, what you want to do next is take the eggplant that you just strained and dried. Nice bunch of it. Throw it in flour. Give it a nice coat. Drop it in the oil. Now make sure you have the oil at about a medium-low. Alright, it's just a nice light fry. And then you keep on repeating that. Now that the eggplant is fried and ready to be used for layering, we're going to take a sip of that red wine. So the next thing you want to do is start prepping the eggplant for baking. So you can be generous. You first want to put the tomato sauce in. Then you want to start taking your eggplant and layering it. Now that the first layer is down, I'm going to take another sip of that red wine. You're then going to want to put down some Parmesan cheese, and I have some grated here. Next, a little bit of pepper. And then a generous amount of mozzarella. Wow, that was a lot of work. Now that that's done, you're going to want to throw this in the oven covered with aluminum foil for 20 minutes. In the meantime, we're going to polish off the rest of that red wine. Now that the first 20 minutes is completed, you want to uncover the eggplant parm and then put it back in for another 20 minutes. In the meantime, I almost killed that bottle of red wine. Well, yeah. Let's take a look at that. Wow. Ain't she beautiful? So now that it's ready, you want to let it cool a little bit. In the meantime, I'm going to take a sip of that red wine. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this recipe and this dish. Be sure to like and subscribe somewhere down here. Again, don't forget to take a sip of that red wine.